Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are going to be jumping into our final series of the day. It is going to be the one and only MaSa refacing off against Semper. Steadfast, are you ready for this?
Oh, I'm more than ready for this. This is going to be an epic best of 7 finals. We do have MaSa starting up 1-0 because of his victory in the winner bracket finals.
Yeah, he's going to be refacing versus Neeb, who again dropped down earlier on, so we have to give him a little bit of an advantage with the fact that MaSa has not dropped a single series this entire tournament. And in fact, really has only actually ended up dropping 2 maps this entire tournament. He dropped 1 map versus Neeb, and he dropped 1 map earlier on. I believe it was versus
Huck.
Versus Huck.
Yeah, in the free-for-all. Or rather, I should say the round robin.
Yeah, the round robin. So he has had a stellar performance so far. But of course, I do want to say that both these players have had a very, very interesting road all the way to these finals.
Yeah, let's talk about the maps for a minute though. We did have Ruins of Saras as the first map.
Yeah, Ruins of Saras.
And as you can see, there's only 6 maps because that 1-0 lead does go to MaSa. So Neeb picking Ruins of Saras, pretty standard. Dusk Towers, pretty standard pick from MaSa. But then we have Ulrena as the 3rd pick, and that's going to be Neeb's pick again. What do you think about that map?
So Ulrena, I think most people are aware at this point of the fact that the Tempest build on that map is so strong. But here is the thing that I'm thinking, is that MaSa had the option, I believe. Well, okay, MaSa didn't actually have the option to ban, I don't believe.
Don't think so.
Yeah.
No, he vetoed 1 map.
Okay, if MaSa ends up vetoing 1 map, that does mean he knows Ulrena is one of the maps he could veto. If that is going to be that guaranteed loss that so many people feel like it is against that Tempest build, then he would have vetoed Ulrena. But there must be something about that map that maybe he knows, and that's the thing about MaSa. He has so many tricks up his sleeve, as we saw in that first series that he did versus Neeb in that best of 5. He pulled out all kinds of stuff, and I actually am starting to wonder, timing-wise, would something like the Ghost Rush end up working? I think we talked about this before we went on live, where that Ruins of Saras game that he was actually doing against Neeb, it wasn't exactly, it obviously was not the Tempest build, but could those ghosts actually hit before the Tempest really start putting on too much damage?
Possibly, yeah. That's hard to say. But yeah, going into the rest of the map pool, Central Protocol, picked by MaSa, going to be a good drop map. Orbital Shipyard, once again a good macro map, and then Larilac Crest as the final map, probably going to be once again good for those maps for MaSa. But we'll have to see if it goes that far.
Yeah, I mean, last time we did end up seeing MaSa sort of pick Neeb apart, and it was through, again, a lot of the kind of weird and strange builds that really caught Neeb off guard, I think, a lot of the time. So we may end up seeing Neeb sort of saying, hey, you know what, I had a little bit of time to adjust, I had a little bit of time to think, I got to play versus Semper, get a little bit more PvT practice, and maybe he uses that time to say, you know what, I think I know what I'm going to do versus MaSa. I think I know what I have got to do to play a little bit safer to get to the later stage of the game without being interrupted. And of course, then again, also being prepared for the other style of MaSa that's so popular, where he just flips a switch and he is all out aggression from that moment on.
Yeah, that you were mentioning before, that July Zerg instinct, kind of the pure aggression. Yeah, just constant parade of terror.
Parade push, yeah.
Parade push.
It has definitely been a very, very scary style, but of course, I do believe that, you know what, I think that MaSa is still going to be very, very favored in this matchup. Not necessarily because, again, Neeb hasn't been performing well or anything, and I would say, to a degree, hasn't been performing as well, but MaSa has just been looking so unbelievably dominating throughout his entire run throughout the tournament.
Yeah, you can see he started off strong here with the series against Desro. Nice fight there at the 4th of Desro, able to take this down. This was the first best of 3, I believe we cast.
It was actually really cool because when we ended up seeing that actual particular game and that entire series versus Desro, I was just generally impressed with, also I would say, Desro. So I think that this actually was a pretty good gauge of, Desro played very well, but MaSa just kind of showed why he is MaSa, why he is so unbelievably strong with different forms, and that's the other thing, different forms of aggression. I mean, even mixing in, those weird Hellion builds. He's done the crazy 5-1-1 that we ended up seeing later on versus Neeb. He did all kinds of crazy things, even playing those just straight up games where he would continue with aggression, but with very standard macro style.
Yeah, and in that series, particularly the second game against Desert, we saw something that we would continue to see in his TVPs for a while, which was the blocking of the scout with that second supply depot, and that paid off for him quite a few times. Here we saw this was actually a game where he went for a proxy Rex that got stopped at 49 of 49.
Oh, that was a little bit painful. And, this series, I think also, seeing MaSa in that Terran versus Zerg environment, also showing a lot of very, very strong play. But I will actually say, the one thing that we actually notice about MaSa is the fact that he played these Terran versus Protoss versus Desro. He played the Terran versus Zerg versus Scarlet. Of course, he did play versus everyone in that very first round. But of course, he never actually had to play a Terran versus Terran besides that one game versus Semper, which kind of interestingly enough was the only thing that he only had to play a best of one of. And that was a very close game.
Yeah, it was a pretty close game. But just throughout this this whole little segment, we saw just the control of MaSa, very precise, very pristine, and that is another one of his trademarks. Alongside that that highly aggressive style, his ability to snipe down banelings, his ability to drop in multiple places at once, very precise, always just keeping his army in a good position.
Absolutely. But of course, his opponent, Neeb, is also had a pretty great run through the bracket. Did get knocked down eventually by MaSa, but he still took out some pretty solid opponents on his way over to the finals, including versus a very, very interesting player named No Regrets.
Yeah, this is actually one of the earlier best of threes of the tournament. We did see a bit of a faltering from Neeb, losing a couple Phoenix, and this is where we asked ourselves, is he maybe showing some nerves? Hasn't been to too many lands, maybe not feeling so comfortable, but then in game 2 he really just shut up his haters, and with that nice snipe down on the Overlord, able to re-wall against the aggression of No Regret, which is always stressful when you're down 1-0 in a series, and you know that something crazy is coming.
I think that this series is really important to show that Neeb actually has a lot of that ability to just, under a lot of pressure, that, as you were saying, we were a little bit worried he hasn't a lot of experience in this land environment. Under pressure, he can actually recover, even from some of those more frustrating and cheesy losses. He has the potential to always bring it back. He's not going to be one of those players that just suddenly breaks down and says, oh my god, I'm going on tilt. It doesn't happen.
No, it does not. And we saw there a nice hold in that game 3, able to take down a pretty cheesy No Regret. Here we saw, once again, maybe a bit of nerves in that first game. Puck was able to take the first game with some weird stuff. Neeb ended up over blinking into disruptors. We saw, in this case, he actually did snipe the disruptors down, but he'd already taken so much damage on his army from those other blink stalkers and immortals.
Absolutely, and I think that this series, is a very, very cool series because it's between two of the top Protoss players that ended up being in the North American region. But of course, I do want to also note that Neeb in this series also just showed like a lot of that kind of dominance as he moved in the late game, showed a lot of that macro potential, and just, I would say, decision making, kind of comparison point of how he would do compared to a lot of his other Protoss brethren in the region, showing a bit of that dominance.
Yeah, and he was able to bring it back and really show not just a lot of dominance, but a lot of patience and a lot of poise. Able to bring it back and end up winning that series 2-1. So we will be going into the game pretty shortly, I believe. Once again, the first map is Ruins of Saras.
We are so close. Steadfast, I have been waiting for this moment for so long. I think a lot of people looked at this tournament and they said, I think there were even Reddit comments, we mentioned this on day 1, why did these people set up this tournament to donate money to MaSa? And you know what? Haters be haters, there was a bit of accuracy in that. MaSa has been showing so much strong dominance over a lot of the other players, but he has also shown little signs of weakness. Neeb also one of, or sorry,
it was Neeb.
Yeah. People saying showing gonna be contributing money to Neeb, essentially. But MaSa, I would say, actually is the really, really strong player in this, and now coming in as a bit of a favorite. This has basically been the entire tournament setting up for this matchup. This is probably one of the best matchups we could have asked for in the end.
Oh, absolutely. Especially watching their matchups previously, just so entertaining and so back and forth. Such good aggression really coming out from MaSa. But then that one game in the previous series that Neeb did take down was impressive in its own right.
Yeah, but we do start off the series in game number 2 as we are going to be spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map on top of the red Protoss player from Team On Fire. Give it up for Neeb.
And his opponent starting with that 1-0 lead from the winner's bracket. It is the blue Terran player in the bottom right. It's Elevates MaSa.
And Ruins of Saros is going to be the map. Cross-spawn positions very, very far away from each other. But these guys do have a bit of a history versus each other. They've played each other a few times now. And that means they do have a bit of a record against each other. But of course, we are going to be seeing that first probe scout coming out. And maybe we can actually get the statistics for these players pulled up.
Yeah, we do see that it's cross-map right here. And MaSa not going for that gas just yet. Not going to be a Reaper opening. Looks like he's going to go for that 1-Rax, no gas CC.
Yeah, but look at that. 27% win rate versus MaSa. This is clearly a matchup that I think Neeb has been struggling with. And it showed in that last series just because, again, it's one of the things that people would always tell me. MaSa is too good at mind games. And I think Neeb himself has said that. MaSa is so good at mind games. Desro had said MaSa is really good at mind games. In fact, I remember there used to be another rivalry that existed in the Toronto scene between MaSa and Hendrillus, because Hendrillus would actually be a very, very strong player, but the one player he could never, ever seem to take out was MaSa, because he would always just mind game the hell out of Hendrillus.
Yes, I do remember that that rivalry, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he's definitely beaten Hendrillus multiple times in the finals of StarCraft tournaments, but he might have actually beaten Hendrillus in the finals of the previous Kings of the North.
It has definitely happened many, many times, and it in fact did happen in the last Kings of the North.
Yes, yeah, I do believe that's the case. We do see the double gas coming out from MaSa after that 1-Rax CC. Meanwhile, Neeb going for his tried, tested, true Gate, Gas, Nexus, Cyber build. And once again, going to be chronoing out that Adept, able to get some map control and scouting, and that quick Stargate. I like this choice on Ruins of Saras. Once again, going to be good for scouting. Ooh, the SCV is going to come in, scout the natural of the Protoss player. That's
Probe gets the kill and shuts down that scouting information for MaSa. Now, again, Neeb really loves foregoing that Mothership Core for a good bit of time to get out that fast Stargate, but we do end up seeing MaSa shutting down a little bit of vision from that initial probe scout from Neeb. And Neeb really not going to have a whole lot of information. Doesn't even know if this... Well, I suppose at this point he'll know, yeah, there was no Reaper. There probably was no early gas coming out.
Yeah, that Reaper would be coming in by now if MaSa was going for that. But we do see the Stargate finishing up. I expect it'll be an Oracle, but he might decide to go for Phoenix since it is cross-map positions. And MaSa does love to go for that early starport play, but it is going to be that Oracle. We do see MaSa, though, is going, as we say, for that early starport play, getting a Cyclone out for safety. This is going to be great against that.
Yep, getting out the Cyclone, getting up a third command center, getting up the tech lab, and the starport, and yeah, should be relatively well prepared. Of course, the Oracle also takes a good bit of time to actually make its way across the map on something like this, Ruins of Saros. Scan goes down and sees the Oracle coming out, and now he immediately knows he's going to need to make sure that Cyclone is in the correct position. He can reposition his Marines in the natural expansion mineral line. And with that, it's going to be very difficult for the Oracle to get damage done, but not only that, on Ruins of Saros, that mineral line is actually tucked in pretty far into the base, and that gives that Cyclone the opportunity, if it locks on, to really chase down that Oracle.
Absolutely. Neeb's got to be so careful with this Oracle. We do see MaSa once again going for a Raven off of this tech lab. Tech Lab Starport, I should say.
Are we going to be seeing a similar style that he did in that other game, that other series where he went for that kind of crazy form of aggression? I'm not entirely sure. The Oracle does do quite a bit of damage, but only managed to get 2 worker kills and does survive. Cyclone going to be potentially hunting it down a little bit later on. We do see Cloak coming out steadfast. We are already coming straight out the gate with a bit of crazy aggression coming out from MaSa, but this time followed up with a 3rd CC.
Yes, I much prefer that 3rd CC. On this map, especially in cross positions, I really don't like going for a 2-base push. You're just pushing so far across the map. There's so much opportunity to counterattack, so much opportunity to get flanked by a big Protoss army.
And the Oracle should be spotting out that Raven. The Raven actually... is MaSa going to use that Raven? No. MaSa will not use that Raven to do anything cheeky to that Oracle. Oracle is going to be able to escape out of there. But this is so important. Neeb has not only seen this push before, granted not with the 3rd expansion, it's going to be a slightly different push, but he has seen the Raven, and he has some idea of what is going to be coming. He immediately plants down the robotic facility, knows, okay, wait a second, I might need to get some observers out. I'm going to need to get up some more gateways. I'm going to need to be able to get up some sort of defense to this.
Yeah, that robotics facility should be in time to be able to produce that observer that he will need. Only thing is, he might still not be expecting. Actually, Cyclone does finish off the Oracle. Very nice.
Yeah, really nice pickoff, as, of course, Cloak is going to be finishing up as well. And there is a singular Banshee out on the map right now. It's making its way along the top side of the map, around the top right. Still gonna need a little bit of time, but there are Stalkers being warped in. That's the other thing that I think really signals that Neeb kind of has some idea of what's going on. He's getting out that first Observer, I believe, right now, and it's gonna be coming out just in time for that Banshee.
Once again, Neeb is going for that big gateway explosion, cutting at 60 workers. We've seen two versions of this. We've seen one where he decided to get very aggressive, and one where he decided to actually just play it out from there in a macro game. But we do see 4 workers already going down.
Oh, Blink is not finished up for another 20 seconds, but oh my god, the Banshee actually ends up going down regardless. 5 worker kills for the Banshee. I mean, it's still a pretty productive Banshee, and there is going to be another Banshee making its way across the map, as well as the Ravens the Raven and the Marines actually looking around, and maybe for proxy pylons or something.
I think he's just looking for observers, maybe, with that Raven. Yeah.
Oh, that's actually very cute to go for. And that might actually be the main reason why he likes to go for that Raven.
Yeah, but this is actually very dangerous. Neeb, after killing that Banshee, is deciding to get quite aggressive, I feel, with these Blink Stalkers, Adepts, and a couple Sentries.
Yeah, this might be costly because, yeah, the Mothership Core is left back at home, but that Banshee, that second Banshee coming into the main base, killing off a couple more workers. Photon overcharges are going to be available, but where is the detection?
Neeb is hesitating in the middle of the map. He started to go home with his whole army, but now just sitting there, not quite sure what to do. Potentially could catch the Raven. I think he blinked on top of the... No, that was something else. No. Just a Marine, I suppose.
And that Raven and the Marines are going to be able to get back to that 3rd expansion. And, of course, that bot enough time for concussive shells and +1 armor to finish up. A couple of critical upgrades finishing up right now for MaSa right before we end up seeing the big engagement. But this is going to be a very hard defense right now, I would say. This is such a difficult position, and MaSa needs to make sure that he doesn't get cut off from his natural expansion.
Absolutely, quite a few Adepts, and are they actually going to let the Shades finish? Looks like he is.
MaSa stemming on in very aggressively against the Force Fields, and I'm not sure how much I like this, as I feel like Neeb is getting some really good trades over here.
The problem is MaSa kind of has to go in against this. The Adepts just ravaging is natural.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of damage over here too. Not only the SCV counts, 9 SCVs going down, and more are going to be falling as more SCVs are being pulled from that 3rd expansion. I think Neeb is just spiraling out of control. He's saying, no, MaSa, I played you last time. I'm not going to let it happen again. GG.
GG. Neeb evens up the series with a map win in Game 1 with that 60 probe Blink Stalker all in.
Oh, really fantastic reaction from Neeb in that game. Really changing it up from that last series. And you know what? That same sort of style of aggression from MaSa with a slight little twist of the 3rd expansion, not going to be working out this time.
Yeah, not so much. Was a bit of a rough loss, losing those Banshees for so little damage. Picking off 5 probes is nice, But I think that that's what triggered Neeb's attack, is picking off that Banshee. He did hesitate a little bit in the middle of the map, but it wasn't a big deal that he hesitated because he was still just building up such a big army.
Yeah.
It's not as though he was on 2 bases versus 3. It was 3 versus 3.
Yeah, although I do kind of wonder, at that same time, we ended up seeing Neeb pushing on into that third, between the third and the natural, and once he gets situated there, that's where it becomes easy for him to send a bunch of Adept Shades into the natural expansion, bypass whatever kind of things are over there, maybe knock down a wall, and if there is one. But imagine if you will, if MaSa had that army just a little bit further over and actually was engaging that army as it tried to come down the ramp. Suddenly, maybe it's not the best place to engage, but it certainly ends up being a much better engagement than him being choked up through those force fields. I think those force fields really ended up being the killing blow to him in that situation.
Yeah, there was only 2 sentries, but they did really, as you say, section off the army very nicely, taking advantage of the terrain in order to separate MaSa from his natural and third. Very, very rare to see that, to see force fields used so effectively, particularly against Terran.
It's so good to see more Protoss players actually starting to utilize it, because it was used so much in Heart of the Swarm, but suddenly it's just like, oh, we're in Legacy of the Void. No, sentries aren't really needed anymore. Okay, well, we'll just make Adepts instead. It's like, wait a second, you're forgetting about the utility of this unit besides just hallucinations, and it's so good to see more and more Protoss players actually returning to that. Neeb definitely one of the players who pretty much does whatever he feels like he needs to do that will give him a good advantage.
Absolutely. Was able to take advantage of that, and yeah, evens up this series.
Yeah, evens up the series. 1-1 is no longer a lead for MaSa, who came in from that winner's bracket. Suddenly, those 3-1 victory that MaSa had over Neeb, not going to matter as much. In fact, I would actually say that Neeb is just kind of feeling good about it, probably, saying, I've seen some of the shenanigans you've thrown at me, and now those tricks won't work again.
Yeah, that's a big deal, actually, is MaSa's wins in that series, they were kind of cheeky, whereas Neeb's win was one of the more standard maps that you would see. And particularly going into a new series, you have not exactly a macro game, because Neeb was very aggressive, and that's what he won with the Blinkstalker Adept, but still a more quote-unquote standard play out of them. And it was Neeb who takes that first game, probably breathing a sigh of relief. Like, I can beat this guy. I'm the better player. I'm the one who's actually going to win this game and this series. Probably just really more than anything, making him feel comfortable.
Absolutely. And of course, we are going to be getting ready to hop into game number 3 relatively shortly of this best of 7 series, as the score is tied up 1-1. But of course, I do actually also mention that, of course, this is in fact a Canada versus United States match as well. We have one of the undisputed best players of United States, Neeb, facing off versus, I think, very commonly recognized as the best player, if not one of the best players in Canada, MaSa.
Absolutely. There's always been that little jockeying for position, a lot of rivalry between Huck, Scarlet, Neeb.
Yeah, I think Canada's always seemed to have that edge. People always talk about Canada, the North American version of, I think, what is it, France, that always in Europe is always doing rather well. Of course, then there's always like Korea and Asia and everything, but, Canada's always been like the North American version of those countries, though, a country that always seems to have where all the talent is.
Yeah, sorry, Huck, Scarlet, MaSa is what I meant.
Yes.
But yeah, and Kane when he back when he played.
Back when Kane played.
Very, very good. The United States not necessarily showing as many outstanding players. States quite good these days, though.
We can technically claim Huck as one of ours now.
Kind of,
technically.
Yeah.
I like to think so. I still chant USA,